Welcome back. Let's finally finish up this exercise. And what we want to do here is use a middleware. Middlewares are very, very useful in something like a server because we make sure that we can handle cases where we always need to act upon the request. For example, bodyparser.json allows us to add JSON to our request body and have access to it. So it would be really, really nice if we have a require auth method or middleware that we can use that always checks and protects any endpoints that should be very sensitive and should only have authority access them. So let's write that out first. I want to make sure that I'll create a auth service, let's say, that says require auth. And any endpoint that requires auth can just use this. In my case, maybe we don't want it for the register because, well, people are registering. They won't have authorization. However, I do want it for profile ID, for getting profile. I want it also for profile updates. And perhaps for images as well. We want to make sure whoever is using our image recognition service is an actual user. So that using this new middleware that we're going to implement, nobody, unless you're a registered user that has sessions with us, that is signed in and is in our Redis database, well, if you're not one of them, you're not getting access here. So let's go ahead and actually create this. Now, usually I like creating a middleware folder, but for now, let's just create another controller file. And we're going to call this file authorization.js. And this authorization.js, well, the very first thing we need is the Redis client. We need to make sure that we can do a check to the Redis client that we have that user. And because the Redis client is in the signin.js, we can just import it here for now. But for future, we might want to move that to the server so that other files that might need it, other controllers and middleware, can just import it. For now, though, let's just add the Redis client to our exports. Make sure we add a comma here. And let's grab the Redis client from our relative path, which is the signin.js. And we're just going to call the Redis client method on it. And let's create this middleware now. I'm going to say const require auth equals, it's going to receive the request and the response, because remember in server.js, every time this gets called, they're going to receive a request response parameter in here. Now, let me make sure I save this so we have that available. Now, in here, there's actually a third parameter that you get with Express, and it's called next. And next, as the name suggests, allows us to keep going down the chain. In here, by using next, I say, okay, do something in this function. Once it's done, if I run next, it keeps going to the next part, which is here. So we want to make sure that within here, at the very end, whatever we do, we're going to call next by returning next. So it's a middleware. A middleware just lets things pass through and might modify things or check things in the middle. Just like the course package or body parser or Morgan does, it watches the request response, does something to it like logging out, and then calls next. So it keeps passing it through. Now, in require auth, we're going to do a simple logic here that says if there's authorization, then we're going to request, or we're going to grab those from the headers. And now we can do a check. If there's no authorization, in that case, I want you to return and not even bother going on with the next. Just return a response status that is 401. And we'll just say that this is going to say JSON on authorized. However, if they do have the authorization token in their request, in that case, we want to return whatever the Redis client gives us. So if we do a GET request, we're going to have the authorization as the key, and we're going to try and get that. And based on the GET, we're going to get an error reply, and we've done this before. And this error reply will have, let's say, if error or no reply. In that case, we're going to, once again, let's just return the same thing, a 401. Otherwise, we're just going to actually leave it like that. Or even we can put it up here. So what's happening here? Well, all we're doing, require auth is doing, is trying to block the request from going any further unless we meet all the criteria. If there's an authorization header, if there's none, well, just say unauthorized. If there is an authorization header, we're going to check Redis, make sure that we actually have something there. If we don't, well, then unauthorized. Otherwise, we're going to do absolutely nothing. We're just going to pass that through and do next to get whatever endpoint the user needs. And that's a nice, simple demonstration of a middleware. And we can use this in a nice way now, just like I showed you, by doing module.exports. And let's just console log here so we can see its effect. You shall pass. And in here, we'll say require auth. Let's save that. And finally, in server.js, actually import this. And let's call it auth. And it's going to come from the authorization.js. Or we don't need the JS for now. Just leave it like that. Now we can use auth.require auth. So if I save here, hopefully we get no errors. We do get a few errors. Let's see what we've messed here. Type error, require Redis client is not a function. So I might have not exported that properly. Let's check that out. If we go to sign in. Oh, we want to make sure that Redis client is exported. And we actually don't need to run this function. It should just be like this. Make sure everything runs. Okay, app is running on port 3000. If I go back to my terminal, click sign in. All right, I'm able to sign in. And I get you shall pass. All right, perfect. What if I try to get an image? So let's just do a face. Images. We'll use this one. Come back here. Detect. Oh boy. Unauthorized. And we're getting a few errors here. Now, why is that? And there's some error handling that we can improve here. But the main thing is we're hitting these endpoints, image URL, image, that, well, they're unauthorized. We haven't implemented on the front end what happens when we do the handle image and handle API call. Because we want to actually send the token. And if we don't send a token, we should not expect anything back. So let's go back to our front end and fix some of this. We need to add the authorization header to our image and image URL endpoints. So let me just copy this and come on down to the app.js. And in app.js, find where we call our images. And we see that, all right, it's here. On button submit, we call the image URL and image endpoints. And they don't have the authorization header set. So let's do that. I'm going to say authorization. And in here, we have to get the token. So we'll just do window.sessionStorage, get item, and we'll just simply get the token. And hopefully there's something for us to check. If not, well, that's fine too. And we're going to do the exact same thing in here as well for the image URL. So let's try that, make sure everything works. Go back to our app. I'm going to refresh. Make sure that we have our token. We do. We're going to grab a face that we can test, paste it in here. All right, everything is working. If we go back to our app, it says, you shall pass. Perfect. We have the right request. But for some reason, if I delete this and try to submit a different face, let's do this one over here. And press detect. Uh-oh, unauthorized. And we got some errors, unauthorized, unauthorized. And we see that in app.js, there's a bit of an error because in the calculate face location, well, there's an issue there. Let's go check it out. On line 97, we expect calculate face to return something. But in our case, we're not because, well, we're not authorizing it. So I can just do a simple if statement here. If, let's say, data and data outputs, in that case, do some of this. Otherwise, well, we'll just return. Let's save. And we have to sign in again. Let's make sure that our token is gone. Detect. And oh boy, we get a few more errors. And this is something that you really want to be careful of with making sure that we validate whatever we do here. Because calculate face location is being used right here to display the face boxes. So we again want to make sure that this doesn't fail and perhaps give it another option of not updating state if boxes doesn't exist. So we can say return something like, well, we can just have a return up here and we can just say if there's no boxes or if there is boxes, we'll do this. We'll update the state. Save again. One last time. Let's see if all of this works. Sign in. Delete our token. Make sure we have the face. Let's try that again. Make sure we have this information. And detect. All right, it's unauthorized. We have unauthorized, unauthorized, unauthorized. Perfect. And our little endpoint is telling us you shall not pass. Perfect. All right, that was a lot, but we've managed to do some really exciting things. And in the next video, we're going to review all the things that we've done, put them all together so that we have a nice idea of all the work that we've put in to set this up. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.